Hey curlies and curly supporters. Today I'm going to be talking about what's been working for me during this time of shelter in place. I know for some states they're reopening. Here in Chicago, we are not. We are at least pushed back until May 30th, and some other things are restricted for a little bit longer. So, as I'm in this for at least another 20 something days, I thought I'd share some of my successes and failures. I've had a lot of failures in coping and grieving and celebrating during this really hard time. So, here we go. First of all, I'm not a counselor. I am not in any way. I took no psychology classes. I took no counseling classes. My experience is from, I am currently in counseling every other week, and I am just sharing tools that I've been given. I do go to church, and I've also had some tools from that. I go to a great church that definitely supports us in our mental health and is not just passing over mental health, but is definitely working alongside it. This is where my stuff has come from. So I just wanted to be honest and let you guys know those pieces. So the first few weeks of quarantine were really hard for me. I'm one of those people who are called an extrovert. That means that I get my recharge from being around people. And I'm also very adventurous. I like to go on adventures, even if they're just like silly things around the city. Those are like life-giving to me, and if I have a friend with me, that is the best. The first few weeks were very hard. I felt trapped as a person who doesn't like to feel pinned down. I work from home a lot, so you would think it would be an easy transition. I do my shoots, and then I come home and edit them, which is a big bulk of photography and video editing is at home editing. But on days when I would have to stay home and edit, or when I haven't been out and seen my friends for a long time, my husband would be like, you are depressed, you are sad, you need to leave the house. And so I was dealing a lot of that when we bought our new home, which was just in September of 2019, so not that long ago. And I was in a new neighborhood. It didn't seem very walkable because it was further away from shops and people. I used to live in a more walkable neighborhood, Logan Square, which was very bar heavy and restaurant heavy and kids and boulevards and stuff like that. And I could walk to friends' houses and things like that. But we moved a little south of there, and it felt far away. And so I was already feeling like that isolated feeling. So I've already had to work through some of those feelings of being like isolated and choosing to reach out to friends and being like, hey, can I just come over to your house? And it's funny because it just takes an ask. So how does that translate to the current situation where we can't go to our friends' houses? Hey, can we just FaceTime real quick? Or can I Zoom call? Let's get everybody together and just Zoom call, and being persistent about it. And I know a lot of people who work in businesses where they have to Zoom call constantly. They're getting like screen fatigue. So I try to respect that of my friends who have to do that. And I will text instead or say, hey, coming in a week or two, do you mind if we did this? Or if I just rode my bike to your house and I stood on the sidewalk and you were on your porch, which actually has been something I've had to do, because if I don't, I kind of go crazy. I also go for walks around my neighborhood. That has actually been very helpful. And I force my son to get out because he's a homebody. I'm in a house full of homebodies. I am very lucky to have a friend staying with us. She moved in right before the shelter in place in Chicago, so early March, and it's been great. Like, we've been roommates before, as our whole family has before, so it's just, that was God. and his timing and making sure I had something. Because if I didn't have a friend, oh, that would be. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, it has been, I feel like this has been a time of huge self-reflection because you're with yourself all day and realizing there's some things in there that can't stay, like in your mind, in your heart. Like my husband, he's so great. He's wonderful. He has a background in counseling and psychology and stuff like that. So he has talked me through so many things, like these overhanging expectations or even bitterness that I had about certain like business things. So, because I run my own business and I put a lot of pressure on myself, I expect that everybody else is also putting pressure on me. And so sometimes I'd like put that onto my husband. He's like, I am not pressuring you to do that at all. I think that's something you've been bottling up for years, thinking that I do that and I don't. You need to like look in on that. And I'm like, oh, that's a good point. I'm being hard on myself, so I expect everybody else is being hard on myself. And so that also brings me to the fact my counselor is just like, you need to take care of yourself and like love yourself, basically. She didn't say it like that. She probably said it much better than that. But like in this time of slowing down and of things not being like they usually are, how can you rest? What does rest look like from being so hard on myself and being doing things just to do things, which I feel like in our culture, at least here in the city, since I live in a very all the time city. It's not New York, but Chicago is very, very hustle and bustle, you know. And there's so many people, so the pressure of feeling like, oh, well, that person's doing something, you know, especially right now when it's like we're going through the trauma of a pandemic and a lot of people are dying and the fear of our family members dying. And to be creative in this time is so hard because like there's some other stuff we have to deal with first. And so when we see other people being creative and still going on and moving forward, we're like, oh my gosh, I should be doing that. And no, no. Give yourself permission to rest. That's what I've learned, is giving myself permission to rest and take this time to regroup, rejuvenate, take care of my family. And I'm really very lucky and blessed to have a home with a property. So that's been huge for me, is that I've been gardening. I am so grateful that I planted bulbs, so like tulips and daffodils in the fall. And they came up in the spring, right when the shelter in place started. So it was just like, oh, something beautiful, something good. And so it gave me something to check in on like every day. Ooh, how big are my flowers now? Oh, look, my tulips are coming. Just enjoying the fruit of the labor. And I've seen like people in my neighborhood walk by and they're admiring all the flowers and loving it. And I'm like, okay, good. This isn't just for me. It's for everyone else too. Like a little bit of color and brightness in this kind of dark time. That kind of dark time. Another thing my counselor suggested was reading a book from my childhood. And she's like, what kind of books do you love? And I was like, I love Jane Austen books. And I usually read Pride and Prejudice like once a year. I know, I'm crazy. I just love Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth. They're just the best. I was like, oh. And she's like, well, have you read it this year? And I said, well, no, I haven't read it yet. And she's like, well, why don't you just read that? And I was like, oh. And it was just so nice to jump into something I knew and I loved, and I knew where it was going, but it was, you know, books, like you find a little something different every time you do it, and you just love making fun of the characters, like Mrs. Bennet. Oh, Mrs. Bennet. And, you know, just the absurdities of it, and it's good. Like, it's like finding something that makes you laugh, because I found myself a lot of times staying up way too late, just like watching Netflix, like things that I didn't even care about, or things that were just like I was receiving no joy from it at all. It was just keeping me up late. And that's when I knew it was like, okay, I'm totally getting depressed. You know, I'm falling into this hole and like nothing seems enjoyable. And so she's like, how about you read instead? And so I have many Pride and Prejudice books to choose from. Not versions, but like I have a small copy. I have the anthology of all the Jane Austen books. And then I have it on my Kindle, and I also have it on my iBooks. you just never know when you're going to need it. So that was just really nice to jump into those characters. And believe it or not, I'm not a fast reader, but I finished it in like a week. So I was like, oh, now what? And so now I'm going to read through all the Jane Austen books. Yes, even the ones that aren't that great, which I won't mention because I know we all have our favorites. Giving myself something to do that's relaxing. So reading that book, a childhood book that I love, was really great. And I was just like, I didn't know how wonderful it would be. And I was like, oh, it just really changed my week around. Another thing was having a routine. So I have a 6-year-old son. He's in first grade, and he's in a dual language program. So he's learning Spanish, which I know like some, but not like a lot. So like I took Spanish in high school. I can form a sentence. So it was just really hard for me doing the virtual learning with him, like from 8 to 3. I was just like, I would be yelling. I would be frustrated, and my son would be frustrated. Like it wasn't enjoyable for anybody. And I know everyone's having that struggle with virtual learning right now. So we would try to keep the schedule of what is school usually look like before there was a virtual learning program put into place. And it was just so hard. And I was just like, I can't do all of this. And my husband, God bless him, was like, okay, this isn't good. How about you guys do school until 12 and then the rest of the day, who cares? Our son can play by himself and you can go do something for yourself. And I was like, oh, are you sure? And I think in the end, I was just really worried again about what if he's not up to snuff with everybody else? What if he doesn't learn enough? What if this, what if that? And it's just like, well, first of all, everybody is going through this pandemic. It's not just my son or his school or his state. It's the country. It's the world. So we're all going to be behind. There's going to be catching up, and who even knows what that's going to look like. So I had to start giving myself a break. Like I was just pushing myself too hard to make sure he was doing all the things. And it's just like, no, things are going to have to fall. Things are going to have to be let go of. And that's okay. Everyone's having to do that. So I'm not falling behind. I'm not missing the mark. We are going through a pandemic. People are dying around us. School can take a back seat. We're still doing school, but if I miss an assignment, if my son doesn't hit all the things or get it done before 12, that's okay. And we're living in the freedom of that and grace of this is hard and we're doing our best. And I think that's just been so freeing to be like, okay, I don't have to do this all day. I love my son. Okay, I don't think I don't love my son. This is just not my forte. Some people are amazing. I mean, teachers are amazing. I know so many people who are teachers and they are fantastic and they've been giving me resources, all that stuff, and I'm so grateful for that. But it's just, some people can be taught to be teachers. I don't think I'm one of those people. Teachers are just fantastic and I love them and I'm really grateful for them. So I'm not that person. It's just been really freeing to not put the pressure on myself to do it perfectly and at the same level his teacher would do, because I can't. I just don't need to do it all because I can't do it all, especially with the new anxieties of going out or not going out, whole new structures of days. So it's been good. I've been leaning a little bit into curly stuff, not too much, because again, I'm not trying to learn a new skill or produce all these things during this time. I'm just trying to do what I enjoy. So curly stuff is what I enjoy, and trying new products is what I enjoy. So that's why I do that. And I've been trying to take some video of my son throughout this shelter in place, just to have something to remember and document. So that's been really nice too. It's just, I think, just coming to terms with the fact that life is different. it can't be the same as it was before currently. There might be a day when we go back and great, but currently things are different, and to try to push myself to be the same in a different situation is not, I don't think that's healthy or good for me. And I think going at a slower pace is really nice. Just think about all the things we were doing before, and now that we aren't doing them, like how is that affecting our lives? Is it better? Is there more time to think? Even space to create. Like, I just think about creatives, and my counselor used to tell me to set time aside to dream and to just think about, because like dreaming costs nothing. Just because you're dreaming about this huge project you want to do, you didn't have to invest in anything in it but time and thinking about it. But like, just to give your brain that time to just go, oh, what if, and I think that's been nice. I've been dreaming about like my garden, what to do with my garden, and how to improve things and how to grow vegetables. And it's just been really nice space to have in my mind that I'm not necessarily committing to anything, or I'm not planning out a list. And maybe I will if I really do want to implement those plans, but it's just nice to have that freedom. It's almost like I compare it to like flying in your dream. You're not trying to build a machine to fly. Maybe that is your dream. Go for that. But it's just the freedom of, I just fly my dream. I don't make a machine in my dream. I am just flying, and that's freeing. That's dreaming, And not always focusing on, and I think this is something my pastor said, what am I going to do when this is all done? I can't wait to do all things I used to do when I'm done. Instead of just being present and taking it day by day, being grateful for what you used to have, being grateful for all the hugs and the large gatherings, the weddings, the parties that we had before. Being grateful, grieving that, and just being with today and what today looks like, not looking forward and being like, it's going to suck when we go back gradually and it's going to be really hard. It's just like, what is today? Where am I at? Where can I be grateful? Gratitude, I think people say all the time, is like, gratitude is just so important, and it's very true. I was writing what I was thankful for at the end of every day for a week, and it was really nice. And to look back to, because I'm not a reflector either. I'm very much like, I'm right now in the present. I'm not looking forward. I'm not looking back. And so, but to choose to look back and say, hey, today was good because I made brownies, or my son and I fixed a toilet together. We played with chalk outside. We said hello to a neighbor, and in the normal scheme of things, if I didn't write those down, I wouldn't remember it. But I have something to look back at and be like, hey, when we were in the middle of shelter in place, there were some bright spots too. And that also actually leads to hope for the day, because you go, oh, that means there can be bright spots today. I just have to choose to write them down for future Heather. So I think, being present right now is really good, and not moving on today, which is really hard, I'm sure, for planners who go, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that, to make the future work. I mean, for your job or for your business. But I think we need permission to slow down and just be. And I'm definitely saying all this from a person who is lucky to have a husband who has a job and who is working from home. He's not an essential worker, but he has a job, versus someone who doesn't have a job and they're on unemployment or can't even get on unemployment. So I totally understand that I am coming from the angle of having the freedom to just be, where some people are still driving buses, doing the trash, picking up our trash, working in grocery stores, farming, being nurses, being doctors. Thank you, all of you people, for that. So I hope they do videos about what's helping them cope, because I'm sure that's a whole nother ballgame. But where you are right now, don't compare yourself to others. Your situation is real. You are going through something hard, whether it's not as hard as someone else's or not. Just realize where you are and what's hard about it, and how to love yourself through that, and to give yourself grace, to let things drop, to feel freedom, and to appreciate what you have currently. Permission to cry, permission to laugh, permission to have a good time, because I know it is a hard time and it is dark for a lot of people, but that doesn't mean you can't be enjoying your situation. So permission to laugh, permission to have a good time, permission to make TikTok videos. That has been fun. And TikTok sometimes just makes me die laughing. Like, it's just like the ridiculousness and the creativity of people in this world is astounding. So permission for silliness, and to be angry, to be depressed, permission to take a day off, use those personal days. It's rough, guys. So I just thought I'd share. That's what I've been learning. That's what I've been working through. Hopefully it was helpful. If not, that's okay. Please share in the comments below about what you're doing to take each day one step at a time. Any good tips that have helped you through this shelter in place. Hopefully just comments of love and not anything divisive, please. We're all in this together. We are all going through a very hard time. So thank you. I'll see you guys next time.